Welcome, everyone, to the Donovan Live Postgame Show on this Tuesday evening. I'm Dave DiNatale with, of course, Jimmy Donovan. Lots to get into tonight on the show as we got Cavs back in action tonight. We've got the NFL owners' meetings continuing down in Florida, Jimmy. Let's start there real quick because things that have kind of come up in the last 24 hours are, if you've watched this show, if you are a faithful viewer of this show, very little should surprise you. You talked about it tonight, though. Basically now, it seems like the Browns have kind of pinpointed their strategy from now until the draft of how they're going to kind of finish off their quarterback evaluations and the basis by which they're going to finally make the selection, which we think will be Darnold.
Yeah. What they did was all of the four guys that are under consideration at the top, Darnold, Allen, Rosen, Mayfield, they had, they watched the workouts, and they had meetings with those players. And in the meetings with those players, they outlined what their plan is should the particular person that they were talking to be drafted by the Browns. And they were right up front, and especially after that Friday of trades, they told them, hey, listen, Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback. There is no quarterback competition when you come into camp. Drew Stanton is now going to be the backup quarterback, but he will also be your mentor, which is important. We want Tyrod Taylor to win some football games, and he will not have time to be mentoring a young quarterback while he's trying to do that. We want to start winning some games, and we want to do it immediately, and we think we have enough weapons around him that he'll be able to do that. How the four guys received that information was put into the equation of whether or not they are going to be the right fit here in Cleveland. So, I mean, that's the information that we have. Now, the Browns are at a point where they feel they have an awful lot of information, but they haven't gotten together as a group to kind of go over the information and get what you think and what I think and what he thinks and what Elliot Wolf thinks and, what Alonzo Highsmith thinks. That will happen as soon as they get back from Florida, and I think they're leaving tomorrow.
Okay.
So they should be back in Berea, and that's when they're going to really boil it down even a little bit more. There are some people that are saying they have it boiled down to the point where they are saying that Darnold or Allen would be the guy. There are other people that say, well, don't count out Baker Mayfield. Presenting that scenario that I just said to you of their plan was in particular kind of generated towards him and I think Rosen.
Yes, I would agree.
Because those two guys seem to be the guys that have opinions. The other two are really, hey, I want to be an NFL quarterback and I realize I'm going to have to sit and wait a little bit, and that's not a bad thing. But remember, Mayfield's been very vocal about, I'm going to change your organization. I want to be able to do it from day one, which goes against the plan. And Rosen is kind of a guy that's very self-assured, and he says what's on his mind, and maybe sometimes it's taken the wrong way, but maybe sometimes it isn't. So I think that's where they are.
Yeah. By the way, I did not forget the laptop today, so if you've got questions or points that you want to bring up during the course of this conversation here on Facebook Live, please feel free to do that. I saw the report today on NFL, Chris Mortensen on NFL Live on ESPN or whatever the show is, basically say, hey, look, it's down to Darnold and Allen. That's where the Browns have it. And we talked about this yesterday. Everybody's going to have a report or, hey, listen, this is what's going on with the quarterbacks. But they haven't made up their mind 100% yet, but they certainly give you every indication that they're leaning towards the young man from USC.
Well, I think if you take that and you boil down the fact of if it's those two guys, I think that they would look at Darnold and they would say, he's a bit closer to being ready to play than Allen is. And I think it's not just the Browns, but I think anybody that would enter into that would realize he's got a little bit longer to go or farther to go to be game ready to go out and play. He's got some mechanical things that he's got to overcome. And sometimes, Dino, that's the problem when a guy's got an incredible arm, is that they lose their mechanics and they just rely on their arm. But at the NFL level, you got to have all of that in sync. And I think that they feel, though he is a very, very open kid to going through all of that, it's going to take him longer to get ready to play. The other thing that comes out of the Browns' plan is this. Remember, Taylor is really kind of a one-year. Unless they do a new deal with him, he's kind of a one-year fix. Stanton's not. Stanton is a two-year guy. So you could conceivably see Stanton, if Taylor plays the 1 year and then moves on, and the Browns say thank you for your work, you could see Stanton be the quarterback the next year if they didn't feel that the young quarterback was ready, but was closer to being ready to play.
So that's how a lot of it's playing out. It sounded, listening to Hugh Jackson today, like Darnold, I think he said, was for sure going to be coming to Cleveland to meet with the Browns. In Cleveland, in Berea. Now, they had everybody's had their. Now, is that the private workout, or did they have the? I know they had the pro day last week, and they had dinner with Darnold last week. Yeah. But would this be a private workout?
I don't think they can do a workout at the facility.
Yeah, it's just kind of a walkthrough and a meet-through.
It's a private. They get 30 visits that they're allowed with candidates for the draft, and he'll obviously be one of the 30. And I would imagine all 4 if they're and there may be other quarterbacks. Right. I mean, you could see Mason Rudolph could be here. You could see Lamar Jackson come here. I mean, they have 30 of them that they are allowed to come in and take visits. That's just to kind of see the whole thing and really sit down and get with them. They go up on the board. They work things out. They watch film with them and things like that. If they want to schedule, they can schedule a private workout with them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Cody Kessler going to get traded? I know
he will either be. I think he will be traded or he will be cut.
But it'll happen before the draft. Probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I think that they take a look at it right now, how things have changed. Look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, Cody Kessler played in 9 games, started 8 in his rookie year.
Yeah.
Okay, far more than they ever expected, but they had injuries. At this time last year, yes, they had Brock Osweiler, but remember, at this time last year, nobody even thought that Osweiler would make it to the first day of training camp.
Right.
They would either cut him and accept the fact that they were going to eat that $16 million salary, but they had the pick, and that was the thing they obviously wanted in that deal, or they would trade him, and they were looking for anybody that would try and get involved with them in a trade, yet the rest of the NFL kind of felt they're going to cut him. But the main thing is, my main point is, that at this time last year, Cody Kessler was the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. He had the work. I mean, all he had to do was just show up and play well and play to what we had seen in 16. And there was just never growth there, was there?
No, and I have to tell you, I thought there was a regression when he got to training camp, whether it was the pressure of going into the camp and being the prohibitive starter, or what, or maybe, as you say, maybe he had just hit the wall and that was as good as he was going to get. There were arm strength problems there. There was just, they were, not perfectly made. A third-round analytics pick, I think, when it was made.
Yeah.
Because really, if you matched up his college numbers, it would make an analytics guy, it would make his hair curl. and obviously, it made someone's hair curl out there because they took him in the 3rd round.
That's right.
I mean, that was a high pick for him. He was projected 5th round.
Right. I can remember going, wow, really? Now? That's the way it worked. Last Browns thought, then I want to get to the Caps. Earlier today on 92.3's The Bull and the Fox, former Browns running back Trent Richardson appeared on their show. And it was interesting. I only got to hear little bits and pieces of it, but I highly recommend people going back to listen to it. He talked about how devastated he was that the Browns traded him so early in 2013 after he'd had the pretty solid rookie season, the rookie season that just under 1,000 yards and certainly showed flashes of excitement. The Browns decided to make the trade. He went to Indianapolis, and things just kind of went downhill for him to the point where he's now trying to resurrect himself in Canada and to see if he can't, find his way back into the NFL. I'll tell you, I'm pulling for him because I really, we pull for everybody. Hey, we pull for everybody, but I'm pulling for him. I really want to see his career get resurrected. But that was such an interesting time. We were talking to some of the guys. There are very few times where there's been just complete shock in covering the Browns.
Yeah.
That day, that evening of the trade back in September of 2013 was complete shock. I did not see that coming.
We were doing the sportscast at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or we were getting set. We were in the break between weather and sports, getting set to go on. When that news broke, and our producer brought it up, Yak brought me up the paper, and Trent Richardson has been traded. And I went, what? And my reaction, we were like Kathy Lee and Hoda there.
Right.
My reaction and Dino's reaction was the same reaction that Rob Chudzinski had at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he had no idea that they were going to do that and trade him, and they traded, and it was done so quickly.
Yes.
And it was a Joe Banner move. I mean, Joe Banner, was very, very vocal about the fact that he never would have drafted him.
Right.
Okay, but remember they came in and they made quick work of it. I think that they were trying to trade Gordon at the time, too.
Yes. They wanted to trade him to the 49ers.
Right. They were trying to trade Gordon. Chudzinski said, hey, listen, if you're going to take the running back, but now you're going to take the receiver, too.
What do I got left?
Yeah. And I mean, it did him no good anyway. He got fired at the end of the year. Remember the series on ESPN? It might be one of those 30 for 30s. And it's one of their better ones. It was called Broke.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Trent Richardson probably falls into that if they remade that and did it. Trent Richardson, Dino, at the time he came to Cleveland, he had an enormous amount of family that came with him from Alabama.
I remember that.
Cousins and second cousins.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, I really remember this, I think he bought 2 houses. He had so many people that he was supporting.
He did. I remember. Yeah, it's funny you said that.
And I think the guy just had so much pressure on him in the family. And he had children when he arrived in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
But in the family, all of that pulling at him, that there was a tremendous load on his shoulders to provide for everybody involved. We don't sometimes get a chance to see that, and we wonder, what happened to this guy? Why does he look, a step slower than he did at Alabama? But you're right. I thought he had a decent rookie year.
Yeah.
He had a knee problem, if you remember, before the start of the year, and then he had a bad opening game, but he had no training camp. Then he came out the next week, and he started to roll. It was in Cincinnati. He had a couple of big touchdowns in that game, and he really started to roll. I can remember one time they were playing the Giants that year in the Meadowlands in his rookie year.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a coming out party for Josh Gordon had a big game that day.
Yes.
They finally were able to get the ball to him. But anyway, Richardson was having an amazing first half. They went out to a 14-0 lead in the game.
Yes.
Okay, and they ended up losing the game. And they stopped giving him the ball right near halftime. And I went out at halftime, and I was with Tony Grossi.
Of course.
And Carl Banks.
Ah, yes.
Former Brown and great Giant, and is a part of the Giants radio team now, came up to Tony Grossi, and he remembered Tony from covering him when he was with the Browns, and he said, I cannot believe they're not giving that guy the ball. If Tom Coughlin had Trent Richardson, he would be the whole 90% of the Giants' offense. And he goes, this is the most stupid game plan I've ever seen, that they're throwing the ball around the field so much. Why don't they just give the ball to Richardson? And you know what? I mean, that's how great he could have been.
Yeah. And that's one of the big what ifs that I always think of with the Browns and this 21st century Cleveland Browns, and there's been so much bad football and ineptitude and everything, but there are a lot of what ifs and a lot of moments and players that things would have panned out differently. Right. You never know. A couple of questions from Billy Blackstar. Jimmy, was Carson Wentz NFL ready? Because he says Carson Wentz wasn't NFL ready, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we saw him his first game.
He started his first game. If you go through their preseason, it was Michael Vick, right, was with them. And the Browns played them in the 3rd preseason game of the year. And Wentz did not play. Wentz was hurt. He had gotten hurt in the game. They held him out.
That's right.
And Michael Vick did not play in the game because the week before he got dinged. But they wanted to get him ready for the opening game, so they weren't going to put him back on the field. So some guy named Nick Foles went in and lit the Browns up in the game. And but I might have that wrong because it was Chase Daniel that thought he was going to start.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
so
right.
Anyway, I can remember. I mean, imagine Carson Wentz. They had told him he wasn't even. They didn't even think he would be the second quarterback for regular season games. They thought he would be the 3rd quarterback, and sometimes maybe not even dress for games. And then he was out hunting the Saturday after their last preseason game, like over the Labor Day weekend, and they had traded Bradford at that point, right?
That's right.
And they get the call. He gets the call. He's out with his brand new hunting dog, and he's on some land that he bought, and they get the call, hey, you got to get back to the facility. You're starting. And it was a gigantic leap at the time by the Eagles. It was. I don't think initially they thought he was game ready, but then they saw it and they decided they were all in on it, and he fooled everybody.
But they had a plan, at least, and this is what the Browns are trying to do. Philly had a plan when they decided to invest all the draft resources in the trade with the Browns to move up to 2 to take him. They had a plan. They weren't going to play him right away.
No, they had told him at best he was going to be the third quarterback.
Right. And
because they had given Chase Daniel a lot of money to be the backup quarterback. Okay, and Bradford was going to be the starter. I had that other year a little bit mixed up. I'm sorry, but and then they traded Bradford because of the Teddy Bridgewater injury. Yeah. And all of a sudden, and then Chase Daniel thinks he's going to start, and they said, no, we're going to go with Carson Wentz. Now, it really worked out for them. They had a great defense, that was getting better and better at the time. They thought they were going to be able to run the ball and protect him. Right. But, he just became an instant success. He really did. Now, he had a lull in his rookie year. He hit a wall at one point, and then he came back at the end of that year, and he played well again. He had an exceptional start. He had a little bit of a rough patch in the middle of the year, and he finished the year pretty strong. Where did they go? Like 7-9 that year? Yeah. And then, off and running he was.
Yeah. And I think that's the kind of the thought is, the plan would be, let's just say it's, for argument's sake, it's Sam Darnold. The Browns have Taylor, they have Stanton, they have Darnold. The plan will be don't play Darnold, but, you never know during the course of 16 games what might transpire between not just through injury, but just, hey, Darnold really looks good. We want to let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and
I don't think they would want to do that.
No, and the only thing that becomes difficult is that once the season starts, it's going to be difficult to see what he would be able to do because, in this new CBA, Dino, they don't. They really don't practice a great deal. They're off on Tuesdays, and once they're in game mode, regular season game mode. Let's say it's Tyrod Taylor. It is going to be Tyrod Taylor. Yeah. He's going to get all the work and practice. Yeah. Okay, he'll get everything he needs and wants. And for most starting quarterbacks in the NFL, they don't hand it over to the other guy and say, "Hey, go in there and take 10 snaps." They want every snap they possibly can get. Therefore, it becomes really difficult for a guy to be able to, for a rookie or a third-string quarterback to really, other than to run the scout team. What can you do?
So we'll actually have a summer where we won't necessarily be charting how many first-team reps the rookie quarterback takes. I don't know what we'll do with ourselves.
I will tell you this. The other thing that when the Browns are explaining this plan that they have to these quarterbacks, Johnny Manziel tells a story, and that is how difficult it was for him emotionally to handle the fact that he was not the starting quarterback anymore, not the big man on campus. This is a kid that owned college football for 2 years anyway, right? Yeah. He wins the Heisman, and then the next year, he still is. He's must-see TV. He's the big guy at A&M. He's the returning Heisman Trophy winner, and he said, he went through a lot of depression not being in the mix. Not being the guy. Exactly. And so I think you have to watch out for that. So when you're talking to a guy like Mayfield, who is charismatic and full of fight and fire, how is he going to handle that? How is he going to handle, listen, you're going to sit.
And just for the record, Eric Fortune wants to know, Jim, do you have an opinion on what quarterback you would take? Of course, you haven't changed. Mr. Darnold.
Darnold, yeah. I would go with Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Okay, now to the Cavaliers, as promised. Last night, you kind of ended the show. We were talking about the Cavs. They were off last night. Tonight they're in Miami. They'll tip off in about 10 minutes or so. And they have the Heat tonight. Things are starting to look up for the Cavs. They've won 5 in a row, but it's not just the fact that they've been winning games.
Right.
The way injuries have kind of crept in on some of the other contenders, certainly Boston with Kyrie Irving and Golden State with Steph Curry. Now all of a sudden, as Cavs fans, maybe you ought to be thinking a little bit differently about how you're kind of putting this team out there heading into the playoffs, heading into the month of April.
Well, there are, 9 games left to go, counting tonight. Okay, so this would be the time that you would be kind of hitting the button that we talk about and be ready to go for the playoffs. Now, number one, I think they'd like to get their coach back on the sideline. He's not coaching tonight.
No.
Okay, and that's going to be a game-by-game thing. So hopefully they get him back. Larry Drew's done a very nice job, but you dance with the guy that got you there, and I think they would like to have their head coach back. But I really believe there were consequences that led me to that feeling. Toronto losing that game last week and the way they blew it, that puts doubt in anyone's mind. Now, they can say, well, we'll be ready when we get them in late April or early May, or middle of May, whenever we would get a chance to play the Cavaliers if they do get together, and we won't even be thinking about that game. Now, I doubt that. Yeah. I think that was a game that was a chance for them to send the message that, listen, we are ready to take this top spot in the East, and we are legit, and we can beat you up in Toronto, and we can beat you here. And that's the thing that the Cavs have going for them is I still believe the Cavs believe they can win anywhere.
Right.
I think they can. I think that if they needed a win, I think they still feel we can go into Boston and win, and we can go up to Toronto and win, and we can go into Washington. Now, the Golden State situation, I don't know. But they have their own problems. I mean, they've got their own problems coming out of the West.
Yeah, I mean.
But that injury situation with Golden State, Durant's not feeling 100%. Draymond Green's been hurt. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there that would tell you, boy, are they going to be playoff ready? And I mean, they're at least saying that Curry wouldn't play in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. I mean, Steve Kerr's been adamant about that. And I think.
Throw all of that into the soup.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, the Cavaliers are looking different to the NBA right now.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I look at the Cavs, getting Kevin Love back has been big. And, the ability of James, Love, to kind of form that core. And you figure out, okay, which players work best in which rotations. And that's kind of what I feel like what they're doing right now. Okay, should we start Jeff Green or should we start Larry Nance? Should we, start Clarkson or should we start Calderon? They're figuring out kind of the best rotations. But you can't deny when you see this team when they're at their best, like the second half of Toronto against Toronto, when they're playing at their best, you sit there and you go, oh. This is still a really good team that is deep. You had 6 guys scoring double figures in that Raptors game when you were missing 5 rotation guys.
Right. And the big thing is, I mean, LeBron's playing at a level that is just unbelievable right now. Yeah. And that's what they need. I mean, he gets them. He ignites them. Yeah. He yells at them. Yeah. And he pulls them through tough situations. But the he part of that is the most important thing. I mean, and he is playing at a level that is just unbelievable when you match up his age and how much he has played, how much basketball he has played in his career.
And the thing is, like from a defensive standpoint, I still feel like there's that gear sometimes that he hits in the playoffs, the more chase down blocks. Right. His ability to play the passing lanes and get in and make steals. I don't even think we've seen him at 100% full go defense yet.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right, and that comes with the playoffs, and that comes with the intensity of it. But I really thought over the weekend there was a real swing in the wind, and suddenly there was a little bit more strut in the Cavaliers' step.
Yeah. We'll see if that carries over again tonight against the Heat. They'll tip off in a few minutes down in Miami. We'll watch that game. I mean, the Cavs, one place they do not play well in is down in Miami.
No, they haven't won there in 13 games.
Right. I mean,
the last time they won there was 2010?
Yeah.
Wow. And for the last time certainly this baseball season, we'll say this, the Indians tied today.
Yes. Yeah, we will not be saying that for the rest of the year. We'll, I'll tell you what, though, as we get ready closer and closer to Thursday, we will be spotlighting the Indians certainly as they get ready to open the season, and then home opener a week from Friday. It's coming, man. Baseball. Get ready. Thanks to Tyler Carey filling in for David Herviton running this show tonight. Jimmy, thank you.
You got it.
We'll see everybody back here tomorrow night for the Donovan Live Postgame Show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live.